Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Can I just quickly say thank you to everyone who's subscribed, because we've now hit 40,000 subscribers, which I didn't think was possible in such a short space of time. So thank you, and make sure you follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and yeah, subscribe if you haven't done already. A few weeks ago I asked you if you had any questions, and a few of you had some very good ones, so today I'm just going to do a little Q&A video. So question number 1 is from Kindred Spirit. Do you have any hobbies besides cars? Sadly not. It's quite time consuming. My job is buying and selling cars during the week, and then on my day off I come out and film some videos and some used car reviews. So no, it's quite time consuming, so no, I don't really have any hobbies besides cars. Number 2, Christopher Richardson. Have you had your fingers burnt on a car recently, and what car was it? Yes, it happens all the time. That's just used cars for you. They always break, and a lot of people are quite dishonest when they're trading in the cars and don't tell the dealer all the faults that it's got, because they're worried about the value being affected. Unfortunately, we've just got to take them on the chin, I suppose, as well. There's really not much we can do about it. I do try and test drive the part exchanges before I take them in stock, but really a quick 2-minute test drive doesn't always show all the faults that a car might have. So you end up just getting your fingers burnt regularly. So yes, is the answer to that. Number 3, AJT UK. That's not AJ Tracy live and direct, is it? He's asked, which Jag should I get with a budget of 15k? Personally, I'd go for an XK or an XJ, because they're probably my favourites. But if you do loads of miles and you want something a bit more sensible, then I would go for an XF or an XE, to be fair. 15k will get you a good one of any of those models that I've just mentioned, so you really can't go wrong. Number 4, Brian Morrissey. Has all the information online and car channels online made a notable difference to your business? That's an interesting point, actually. I think nowadays it's not just used cars, to be fair, or new cars. It's everything that you try and do. I think customers are better informed than at any point in history, which sounds like a good thing, and I suppose it is really. More transparency is better. But I think it just muddies the water because there's too much information out there. I mean, for example, if I've got a car for sale at £6,000 or something, I'll have a customer come along and tell me, well, Parker's said it's only worth 5. Well, yeah, but this one's got 4 matching Pirellis, 2 keys, full service history, it's just had its cam belt done. They're then worried because they think I'm trying to have more money out of them than they're prepared to pay. And that just isn't the case. So it's a bit like when you go on TripAdvisor. If you check out too many reviews for a hotel that you're potentially staying in, you end up planting that seed of doubt in your head. So no, I think there's too much information out there, really. Also, with the they do that online MOT history check now, so you can check to see the car's history, or its MOT history anyway. Which sounds like a good thing, doesn't it? But if I'm selling a 2008 Corsa, quite often I'll get a call from somebody and they'll say, I've just checked the online history and 4 years ago there was an advise for an anti-roll bar bush. Do you know if that's been done? No, it's a £2,000 Corsa. I don't know if it's been done. All I can say is it'll come with a fresh MOT and a service, but that might have an adverse effect because it might put that person off, which is a little bit unfair. Christopher Richardson, again, how long is the longest you'll have a car sitting in stock, and what do you do to try and get it sold? That's interesting, really, because the longer I'm in this job, the more I realise there are no black or white rules. It's just, you've got to judge each case differently. I know a lot of garages don't like to have a car in stock for longer than 90 days. After 90 days, they either just send it to auction or just slash the price. But I don't do that personally, because I think if I'm still happy with the car and it still drives well and I'm still confident with it, it's just a case of finding the right person for it. It only takes that one person. And with a population of 66 million people, finding that one person shouldn't be that difficult. So I always think, rather than lose faith in the car and start reducing the price, which means you'll end up with no profit from it, I always just try and tweak the advert slightly. Not necessarily the price, but just the advert or the wording of the advert, or wash it off and take fresh photographs on a nice day rather than a rainy, miserable day. So yeah, that's what I tend to do. But I would say don't panic if you've got something sat around for a long time, but that's easier said than done. For example, recently I had in fact I did a video with it, a C-Class coupe in silver. I had that for 13 months. And it was price fair, the mileage was low, the history was very good, the car was faultless. I just didn't get any calls on it, and it's just a strange job. There's no accounting for anything, really. And yeah, in the end it sold, took in a decent part exchange and moved the deal on that way. Number 6, Christopher Richardson again. You could have just called me, you know. What do you do if a customer brings a car in for part exchange that you don't want? Again, in the early days of me doing this, I was just keen to do business and do deals, so I would just take in anything really, even if I felt sort of obliged to take the part exchange. But now, after having my fingers burnt so many times, I'm now not really bothered. And with things like We Buy Any Car and stuff, I always advise, if it's something I don't particularly want, make them what I think is a decent offer, usually a few £100 less than it's probably worth, just to protect myself. And yeah, take it or leave it basically. If they don't want to go with it, they can go and trade it in with We Buy Any Car. But yeah, that's probably not bad advice actually. Just don't feel like you're obliged to take something in part exchange that you don't necessarily want. You know, you're a business at the end of the day, or I don't know if you're a business, but I'm a business at the end of the day. I'm not a charity, so, you know, for example, if a car has a value of £3,200, I might offer £3,000 if it's something I don't particularly want, because then I think at least I could trade it on or send it to auction or something. But if they then say, oh, we had an offer from We Buy Any Car at 3.5, well, fine, I'm not getting into a bidding war with We Buy Any Car, just take it to them. Like I say, in the early days I was doing some fairly stupid deals, but I think I've learnt my lesson now, and I haven't really got the patience anymore. So, innuendo with a 1. What's your favourite route around the High Peak area? To be honest, just head up towards Buxton. Any of those surrounding villages are lovely. Tideswell and Millersdale and all those sort of areas. You really can't go wrong, especially on a nice day. Now, several of you have asked this next question. Mark Smith, Christopher Richardson. How did you get into the motor trade, and what's your advice for others wanting to follow? Well, I've always been interested in cars. My dad always would swap and change his cars regularly, so that, I don't know, just gave me some sort of interest in cars. But yeah, I grew up watching programs like Wheelie Dealers, obviously. I watched that from the very start. And before that, there was a show called Auto Trader with Mike Brewer and Ed China. And yeah, I just started buying and selling cheap cars from home, basically. My first car that I ever bought to sell was a little Opel Corsa while I was living in Spain. And yeah, fixed it all up, cleaned it up, went to the scrapyard for a few little bits that had broken. And I think I made like €1,000 on that one. And it gave me such a buzz to carry on with it. That's sort of how I got into it. My advice to others wanting to get into the trade is think long and hard about it, because I wouldn't recommend it. It's not a very pleasant job. It's not very rewarding. It consumes all your time. You never have a moment off. It might look quite good from the outside to be able to drive home in a Porsche or an M3 or whatever, but all that glitters isn't gold. What you don't see is me checking my bank at 3 a.m, worrying about how I'm going to pay my rent, pay my bills, pay my whatever. Broken cars that cause you headache, customers that are screaming at you wanting the refund or wanting the cars fixed, or it just isn't a rewarding job. So I couldn't honestly recommend it. It's like a game of snakes and ladders. You go forward 2 steps and then you go back 3. You need thick skin to be involved in this job, to be honest. And yeah, I don't really enjoy it most of the time anyway. I suppose that's true of most small businesses though, really. You're constantly on the edge of your overdraft. Also, one thing to mention with this job is it's a job with real highs and real lows. A few days of the month, everything goes your way. You'll have sold a few cars and earned some money and everything's going well. And then without any warning, the rug will be pulled from under your feet. And there's just no in between. It really is a roller coaster, and it'll cause you to have, well, me anyway, menopausal mood swings. Some days you're just down in the dumps, and other days you're on cloud 9, and there's no real in between. It's feast or famine. Number 9, Rob Waters. If you could review any car in 2020, what would it be? Honestly, I don't know. Something a bit oddball. Maybe like a cheap old Aston Martin Vantage, or a cheap old Bentley GT, or something a little bit, something sort of affordable but would frighten most people off. Number 10, 52 Hermitage. Should I buy a Discovery 4 or a Jaguar XJ? I like the high driving position of the Discovery 4. In that case, I go for the Disco. I I'd ignore all the horror stories because a lot of them are exaggerated and third hand. So just find yourself a nice low mileage one with good service records, and yeah, you should be alright. Get the cam belt done and make sure you service the gearbox. And use premium fuel, and don't let the fuel tank run low. That's the other tip there, if it's a 3 litre diesel. Question 11, BMW F800R. What do you think of the Panamera diesel? Thinking of buying one. Panamera diesel, if you can get past its ugly looks, and it is ugly, there's no other word for it, it is an ugly car. But if you can get past that, they're quite a good car. They're reliable, well built, fast, fairly economical if you go for a diesel one. And they're now quite affordable. You can get a decent one for about 22, 23 grand. So yeah, it is a lot of car, but ugly. Number 12, Mike Carney. Which would you choose between an S-Class, 7 Series and Audi A8, late 2017? That's easy. I'd have a Jaguar XJ. No, seriously, if you don't consider an XJ, then S-Class all day. I think it's by far the best. But I mean, let's face it, any of those will be very good, so you can't go wrong there. Number 13, Johnny5777. Would you take a new Bentley Bentayga or an old Mint Defender? I know what you're thinking. I know you're going to think I'm going to say Defender because I'm a Land Rover fan. But I really like the Bentayga. And I sort of love the arrogance of it. It's vulgar and over the top and ostentatious, but I just like them. So yeah, I'd pick the Bentayga. In fact, that would be a good review car. Leave that with me. Number 14, John Stevens. Are all luxury marques similar from a reliability aspect? Does it boil down to look, maintenance, and how you drive and how the previous owners have driven? You've answered your own question there, really. That's my belief anyway. I've said this many times before, but recently I've had a fairly young Honda break down on me. I've had issues with Toyotas, Mazdas, so don't buy Japanese thinking that that is the be all and end all, because it isn't. It all comes down to maintenance. Number 15, Urak J. Sorry if I've pronounced that wrong. Do you see yourself selling second-hand electric cars? I really hope not. Not because I'm really anti the electric vehicle as such, but I just think they're going to have loads of issues. I mean, normal cars have loads of issues, but can you imagine when I'm selling a 10-year-old electric car, when I'm trying to find a replacement battery pack or something like that? It's just going to be a whole world of grief that I hope I don't have to deal with anytime soon. 16, Martin A1. What happened to the Mark II RAV4 that you took to Spain in the summer? Well, I had it for a few months, used it, didn't really have any issues with it. It broke down on me once actually, and I had to get it towed into a garage, and it needed a crankshaft sensor. Yeah, and then I sold it. More or less got my money back, and now it's in sort of semi-retirement, I suppose, in southern Spain on a farm somewhere a little bit inland. Number 17, Joseph Lloyd from Lloyd Vehicle Consultants. List your favourite reviews. My favourite reviews. Probably the XJ, the X351 that I did. That's probably up there as one of my favourite ones I've done. Number 18, Woody Woodcrafts. Do you enjoy your job? Most of the time, no, not really. Some days are good, but most are difficult and challenging and unrewarding, to be honest. I like the people I work with. I like going buying cars, but the rest of it, not so much. Number 19, Tragic Old Hipster. Have you found that your business has improved from having a YouTube channel? Lots of people ask me that, you know. Not as much as you'd think, really, because a lot of the views, when you look at the analytics, a lot of the views that I get are from all over the world, so it doesn't really have a direct impact on my sales. But I think it allows people to get to know me a little bit more, which then makes them feel relaxed. So when they come and view a car, they sort of know me a little bit better. So in that respect, it helps. But I don't know if you noticed this, but I purposely don't plug my own cars because I don't want to come across as like I'm trying to push for sales, because I'm really not. I'll just do this as a hobby. I don't have a secret agenda or whatever. Number 20, Steve. Is that your YouTube handle, Steve? If you had to drive one car for the next 20 years, taking into account maintenance, fuel, reliability, what would it be and why? I'd pick a brand new Range Rover Vogue SE. Pretty good on fuel. I think they're reliable if you look after them. And yeah, this is 7 years old and I love it. I think I could have a brand new one for 20 years, yeah. Number 21, GT Caledonia. What's the best and worst aspects of being a self-employed car trader? I think I've answered that earlier. in my little rant about how miserable the job is. 22, VXR Bandit. Could you give me your opinion on the big boy dealerships? I don't really have an opinion. I do use a lot of them for servicing and stuff, if it's a car that warrants it. Most of them are very good. Lexus Stockport, very good. Jaguar Land Rover Stockport, very good. Mercedes too. Williams BMW Stockport suck, and I've had a bad experience recently with Fiat in Hyde. They're not very good. But yeah, apart from that, I don't know too much about their business. I know that they don't earn as much money as people think that they earn. They earn more money from finance commissions and Superguard and all that sort of stuff that nobody needs. Adrian Clark, what's on your to-do list for personal cars to own and why? I've never had a Bentley, and I'd quite like an old Bentley GT. And yeah, the AMG GT, I love those. And they're about 60 grand now, which is, well, it's not affordable to me, to be fair, but it's in the realms of being affordable. So in a few years' time, who knows, watch this space. Stevie 007, among the many vehicles you have owned and sold over the years, which cars have you regretted selling, be it for nostalgia or increased value? I don't think I've been doing it long enough to have had anything rocket in value that I've sold. So maybe in a few years' time there might be something that I regret, but not at the moment. I went to a friend of my dad's last year to go and look at a car that he had for sale, and in his hallway was a photograph of his driveway about 25 or 30 years ago, and there was an XK or two XK40s, two XK140s, and an old E-Type Jag. And when I asked him about them, he owned them all at the same time and then let them go because they were virtually worthless, and now they'd be worth easily 100k each. But no, I haven't really got any stories like that. Also, because I'm a little bit fickle with cars, I think once I've got it in my head that I don't like something and it's got to go, then I don't really regret selling it. I'll move on quickly. 25, 4chan Chan. If you had to choose one car for up to 15k, what would you buy personally? If I did lots of miles and I had to be fairly sensible, I'd pick a BMW 530D. If not, I'd pick an XKR Jag. 26, and final question. Richard Crossley. What's the outright worst car you've owned? Boring or unreliable or expensive? That's probably a very long list, actually. Straight away I'm thinking of plenty of Espaces and Scenics and Picassos and... what else? I had an Alfa Giulietta diesel a few years ago, and that was unreliable, expensive to repair, poorly built, disappointing to drive. So yeah, maybe that actually, because Alfa should know better. So that's the end of all the questions. I hope that wasn't too boring for you. But yeah, thanks very much for watching. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'll leave all the links below. Yeah, any comments or questions, let me know. Cheers guys, thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time.